Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Weekend Frivolity, our funnily named Broiler Chicken Show. And actually, this was a request by our newest member of the TRI team. We will go by well, I don't know. I mean, anyway, long and short of it here is. He had suggested maybe marketing-wise the name Broiler Chickens, probably not the most appropriate name. And also, too, he'd really love, and please be gentle on me. I know a lot of you are going to shit on my head. I'm going to set up myself up for disaster here. But he'd also like to see your comments. So especially people that are, say, watching this for the first time. I noticed we have quite a few views of these weekend free shows. So, if you do have a question or a comment, feel free to drop us a line. If there's something you'd particularly like to maybe ask about or something like that, feel free to comment in the chat room. Maybe Albert, you could just sort of pop in there and say hi. And if somebody does have a question, you could and see how that goes, right? I know to a certain degree, I like to sort of be a lone wolf on these things. But hi, John. I'm doing okay. How are you? Yeah, thank you for asking. It's awfully nice of you to ask. But also, too, and maybe this is where we can get the comments sort of going. I don't know, Albert, is this a good idea? Should we maybe we're going to rename this show that sort of, is all sexy. So maybe suggestions in the comment section. What would be a good name for these shows? And be nice on Brian. In fact, I even told Albert, I was like, you know what? I can't handle my ego can't handle the way you guys love to beat me up on Twitter and whatever. And sometimes, hey, I deserve it because I say stupid things. So don't get me wrong, but when it comes to the trolls, just go easy on me, okay? I mean, I'm just trying my best here to help people. One of the best thing I heard from one of the TRI members this past week was he was like, Brian, you don't have an ego. You don't have to worry about that. A lot of people in this space have really big egos. And there's one gentleman who's got just a monstrous ego right now that I think is setting himself up for a huge fall, but we'll see. Only time will tell. Everybody on YouTube and, at the TRI site, I know this for certain, but please understand, I'm coming at this from the best place. I'm trying to help people. If there's anything you can take from these videos of learning, then awesome. Am I, totally kick-ass monster trader that's going to rock the world? I'm so-so. I mean, I try my best. And I try to follow all the stuff that I've learned over the past 20, 30 years. So, anyway, so we'll take it from there. Obviously, Bitcoin's price action was pretty crazy this past week. So, probably best to comment a little bit on that. Albert, is there anything in particular that we should, now that we have sort of the public's attention, they're going to be watching, is there anything in particular that you'd really like as a message to get out to them? Because Albert would really like me. Hey, there you go. So he's actually, hi, Albert. I see you posting on the YouTube page. If there's anything in particular that you'd like me to focus on, please let me know. Okay. So anyway, and actually it was kind of cool because I just tweeted out just a moment ago, just before the show started, we had a really nice pop-up in price. I think it was, a bit of a pent-up momentum, pent-up energy from a very, very tight range. Have we got to the point where we're can declare a full-on bull? No, I don't know about that, but I think there definitely was some trading done here. It's fascinating how on the site, one of the setups that the level 2 program just sort of learned about was using volume profile with fib levels, or Jesse James setup. And we actually had 2 of those Jesse James range setups where you sell the 78.6 single ticks and then take partial profits on a return to the mean, and then your stop to scratch on the remaining. We actually had 2 of them fire through the weekend. And I don't know whether this is a fib level or not, but we just got single ticks again. I mean, it's remarkable how they're sort of stair-stepping this way market higher. I was posting in the lounge this morning that when I looked at the profile before this event, and it was interesting because I wake up right around here, New York kill zone, right, all that kind of talk. And the fact that they couldn't dump it, they've tried actually a couple days in a row through the New York kill zone to break the market, and they just couldn't. It doesn't surprise me that we've had sort of a violent move up top, and I'd sort of posted to our community this morning when I got up that actually this should be a really cool experiment. Now, the weird thing about this is these bump ups here, they're coming on single ticks, right? So a little bit suspicious what's going on here, but you know, if anything now, we're going to be asking the question, can we accept above value? But what was really interesting about this when I loaded up this chart this morning, and I might even be able to show you the chart that I loaded a few hours ago. Let's see, where was that? It looked like we really could have used to do some business up top. And so the profile ideally wants to look like a parabola. And given this trading range, yes, I know it's been extremely violent and all over the place, but given the range and the distribution of volume, it just felt like the profile was kind of empty up top. So I think, yeah, in fact, that was the comment that I put in there. Here is the chart. This morning, I just simply said with price, you know, you can see that beautiful W right off the POC. And you can see that the profile just looked lopsided. So all you level twoers that are watching this, a really, really good example of the market trying to accept above value high. And if it can, then it really wants to make this entire profile look like a parabola. So you see what it looks like here. That was first thing this morning when I woke up and we saw the resolution through the New York kill zone. And what's fascinating is it even works on the weekends too. And so here we are now. There's the breakout. And what's interesting, I often find this is so cool, right? But I often find that the market will break out. And, you know, I know a lot of people come to trading and they're like, oh, yeah, but the pros, you know, they move the market so fast. And there's no way you can get into the trade, yada, yada, yada. Well, here's a great example where you can see where the W is. And, you know, Thomas loves his clotheslines for trade location. So, you know, he lets the W come in and he's going to work his bid at the clothesline level. And you can see you got filled and then there was a doji and then the market sat there and it sat there. And this is a 30-minute chart. So that's like a good, you're in the trade like a good hour or two, right? And then all of a sudden, pow, away we go. And I always like to sort of suggest people, you know, if you did go off the clothesline, if you went off the high of the candle, I could live with that too. You know, if you're going to take this trade, try to make sure that, you know, if you're going to risk against the W, try to make sure that you get paid a good sort of like 2 to 1 on the risk that you take. So, you know, at the very minimum, we should pull this down to where the 2 to 1 level is. So there it is. You know, I would like to hear, if I did hear anybody on the site had taken this trade, that, you know, they book at least partial profits on this event. Then maybe move your stop to scratch on the remaining. And, you know, just you got yourself a free look. Enjoy the ride. Cute little action through the morning. And that's what's fascinating, like I said, was it was off of 2 separate single ticks range shorts that both worked partial profits, like book partial profits on a return to the POC, and stop to break even. And this one you get stopped out at break even, same thing here. And what's interesting is as this profile is developed through the day, you can't see that anymore. But on this event, right, this profile started here, but on this event, it was a total single ticks. Interesting how as the profiles develop through the day, that's completely gone now. And interesting, too, how the old single ticks now is actually value high. But anyway, long and short of it here, again, the return to the POC was this level, take partial profit, stop to break even on the remaining. So on both of these range trades, you made partial profits and stop at scratch on the remaining. And now you got this cute little W that's come in. Again, it's giving you partial profits, levels 2 to 1s. And now your stop's at scratch. Given Bitcoin's price action lately, I wouldn't be surprised if this gets stopped at scratch. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But which is fine, but that's a trader's life, right? And one thing actually I've really liked what I see about TRI is we're building in traders that really like to establish those free looks, try and get your anxiety level down as fast as possible. And, you know, we talked recently, we had a couple position trades on, two that basically got stopped out at scratch thanks to our trading rules. And one of them, the Decred, we had our rules where we had to get stopped at scratch, and we did. We just walked away at scratch. And then same thing on the Zcash, got stopped at scratch. Interesting how it's just sort of sitting right at that level right now, even after all this. And of the 3 trades that we put on recently, only one of them got blown out at a loss, and boo, hiss, boo. We had to take a punch in the nose on Verge here. You know, I don't like to lose money. Don't get me wrong. It's no fun. But at the same time, too, I'd be a bit of a hypocrite if I didn't, you know, respect my risk and walk away from the trade on this level getting hit. So if anything, you know, I even journaled in my journal today, I have to be a good role model for these people. I said I was going to risk to this level. So, you know, we got to basically obey the risk. The irony of all of this, and, you know, this is trader's life. I took this setup. I tried, you know, trade idea didn't work. We made new lows, so I've got to respect my stops. But the irony of all of this is I can, in the face of me getting stopped out at a loss on this one, and, of course, these ones just sort of, you know, walked away at scratch, I can actually see new trade setups forming. So, you know, I found this one. This was an interesting one. I talked to you guys. Actually, I should probably take some time to talk to you about this trade. I remember, I think it was 2 videos ago, I talked to you about how does a trader trade setups. And this is a fascinating conversation unto itself in that I think that the W came in, no doubt about it. And, you know, if your trading plan was, hey, I trade W's, but I have to risk against the bottom of the W, well, you take the trade. And as you can clearly see, it did not work, and you better have gotten the frig out of there. And this is a really good commentary on why you have to obey stops. And, you know, I kind of broke the rules through the summer with that Ethereum trade. And it was, you know, and I even told our community that I'm going to have to just manage this position because I was away from my trading post and price went zooming through my stop level. And I just got to take my lumps on it. And it's still underwater. I mean, it's a bitch. So here's another good example where, you know, if you're going to risk against the bottom end of the range, you better obey your stops and you better walk away if this thing breaks this level. And sure enough, down we go. And frankly speaking, I'm not quite sure how they're going to handle all of this. I don't even know if this asset even exists as a tradable product on BitterX through all the forking and all that. So I also do like the idea that if you had come to me and said, well, Brian, this is this technical bottom, but, you know, given the fork and the Civil War, I'm just going to walk away from the trade. I really don't have a problem with that because that's a function of the changing of the fundamentals. But on balance, you know, had you taken this W, I really hope you would have just walked away on the break of the bottom of the W. And it's a trader's life, you know. I mean, that's the whole point of risk is that you have to be able to define it. You know, you're not going to be right 100% of the time. So when this shit hits the fan, you better act. So if anything, that sort of puts, you know, better context of why I have to act here. I said I was going to risk against this level. Clearly, it's not held. I don't know what's going to happen. Maybe the floor falls out of this thing like those other trade ideas, and you sit on a massive loss. So, like I said, my trading plan said I had to risk against this level, and so I booked the loss and walked away. Boo, hiss, boo. But that's the way it goes in trading. Now, like I said, the irony of it all is I can actually see some really cute little long setups. And frankly speaking, I wouldn't be surprised if some guys are looking at this and thinking, you know what, this isn't a bad place to take a long shot. I mean, I don't have any setups here, but it wouldn't surprise me if there are guys. And frankly speaking, just looking at 50% rules, I think the statistical odds are, just looking at this range alone, that we're probably at some point going to trade up here. So if you do have setups come in here, right, just identify what you're going to risk to and take your shot. And if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, well, got to obey your risk and get the hell out. So the one market that did interest me when we started, well, just before we started this video this morning, when I was sort of looking at the BitMEX swing trade ideas, was Ethereum is actually looking very strong here on the BitMEX forwards. I don't know whether I really like momentum in here, kind of middle of the range. So, definitely not a setup I have, but I was very interested to see that. And that actually happened well before Bitcoin popped up here. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but I did notice that Ethereum was sort of leading the charge here this morning. I have the chart on here. You can sort of see that it's kind of triangle-y. There's going to be a lot of guys on the net that will talk about triangles. I just don't know whether that's enough volume here to get me too excited. I do like the fact that we're making higher green volume bars, and the sellers have kind of just disappeared. But for me to really start thinking, all right, rock and roll volume wise, I got to see a move above here. And that sort of, brings me back to that sort of Bitcoin conversation we had just a moment ago. Was when I looked at where the hell's that damn screen? Here it is. When I looked at this move up here, what I really want to see is I want to see that the market is accepted above value. I don't want to see single tick. So I would really like to see some volume come in here, please. And nice to see this nice green bar. The question I would have is, where's the distribution of this volume? Was it up here? No. Probably more in sort of this area here that's written on here. Maybe we'll just take all this stuff off now. All right, so it's probably in this area here. I just would like to see this. Don't turn into a shooting star and then maybe an empire, and then that's the end of the rally, kind of like what we saw here with this nasty potential railroad tracks that basically formed this range since yesterday. If anything, I want to see, like just buyers, just keep coming in. Let's see. This is the 30-minute chart too. So, I mean, let's see on like a 5-minute. So we had that big sort of burst, and it looks to me like that might have been a big stop out run. That wouldn't surprise me. What we really want to see, and actually, this isn't a bad conversation here. We would like to see, I mean, ideally, just off of this range, we would like to see the buyers. You can see this, what we call a muak. You can really see how there's a bit of a valley in the profile. We would have ideally liked to seen the market come in so much volume here and just accept above higher and move up, but it doesn't look like we're going to get that. And if anything, right now you can see the dip. In fact, this node right here is especially low volume. What is that? That's 541. Is that what that is? 536. So interesting how there's a real hole in the profile right there, and that basically corresponds right off of this breakout level. So what I think probably happened here was there was probably a bunch of stop loss orders. Maybe even guys took shots against here, and they got stopped out, and price just literally, and of course the guys on OKCoin, they know what's happening. So if they see that the market's going to run stops, then they're going to pull all their orders. So the market runs the stops, and then, it vaults higher because there's just no orders on the DOM, and they're market orders. So what happens is you get that funny little lull in the profile where there just isn't a lot of volume traded because they've pulled all their orders, the bastards, and they're just running stops, right? And it just goes, woohoo! Because whatever stop loss orders there are in the books, they just simply become, market buy orders. It's a bit cheeky, but, it's capitalism for you. All right, so probably stop run there. Inside bar, a little bit of a interesting how you could even argue a little bit of a fractal there. And not really clear signals here. It's just all gobbledygook as far as I'm concerned. I think probably what's going to happen here is against previous breakout highs, there's going to be people that see this and the trend followers of the world. Yeah, so there's probably stops here, right? So this just became an absolute cascade of stop run on, like, you know, and you can see up here actually, and that's pretty, that as single ticks go, that's actually pretty chunky. That's not, you know, I think the other day we had perfect, well, not perfect, but you can see, like, when you get like a zing of just these single ticks, that's just the most beautiful example of single ticks. But you know, it's so funny when ever I'm like doing a class or something and I ad lib and I just try to find an example of single ticks. Like, I never do it. So I'm going to leave it at that. You want to learn about single ticks, come on the site and ask, and I'm sure we'll give you lots of resources. Anyway, so the point of the matter here is, especially if we even look at the distribution of the volume through the entire range here, you know, this is basically through the weekend, eh? So you can see we're up at the top of value here. Again, sort of like what I talked about earlier, is what we really want to see is we want to see buyers come in and then structure sort of develop through here, and basically accept this move up. Now, like I said, that's pretty good looking volume. So, you know, odds are in my eyes that this thing is going to accept above here, but we'll see. Only time will tell. If I want to try and play that acceptance, I think what we probably do is we throw on some bot levels. So we're going to take a fib off of this high, maybe back down to this low. That's a nice double bottom. That's sort of a nice bottom end of the range. So acceptance would basically be, okay, we're going to trend continuation our way higher here. Should probably put the magnet on so we get somewhat precise levels. All right, so we go boobity boo, and then go bot setup. All right, so there's 33. We really don't want to see this go beyond 66. And can you see how 66 sort of lines up with the top of the entire value range here? Isn't that cool? So in essence, it's sort of like, you know, the bot trading system, and, you know, you can see W's. There should be a lot of interest to be buyers down in this area. So for the bot to be alive and to be active, we really don't want to see the market go below this 66% level. I think that's actually really cool. But that's nerdy Brian trader talk. What do you define as cool? All right, so as it is, we have this low here, right? This big panic dump off of the rally up, which interestingly enough is basically corresponding against these old highs, and where you know, I love candle body highs as trade locations, so I had pointed that out. And like I said, this Jesse James setup that fired through here was on single ticks through this event. But that's yesterday. Let's talk about today. So if I was looking at the market right now, what am I sort of foreseeing? And you know, if I was going to try and trade this, how would I? I've got my A, B, C, D. And now the CD leg, I'm going to break into quarters, right? So my bot trade, and we got to make sure that the levels are correct. Trading view. Always fun this way. Let's see what it set it to. Oh, 7. Holy Jesus, that's a big number. Why don't we say like 350? Oh, there we go. Oh, actually, this is kind of cool. So you guys see how the bot is going to say, all right, if this is a trend continuation, we're going to go AB, CD. And we said that in essence, we really would like to see this level hold, because in essence, that's sort of that Wyckoff markup process. Can you guys see Wyckoff at work here? Right, just sort of stepping his way higher. So, you know, if this really is a bull, we really would like to see these levels hold and really not dip back down into here, right? And of course, value high, we really don't want to see the market accept back into value, because then that means we might get Hoag's 80% trade where actually the market has to trade back down to previous value low, which would mean we have to come right back down against this original bottom, which would mean this is a range, not a trend. So as it stands right now, what I find really cool about this, and you know, it's a good idea once you've sort of done this, that you really zoom in and make sure this level is correct. You don't want to use the magnet here because it'll sort of, well, actually you could use the magnet, but what you really want to do is don't change this cloned studies levels. So that means you got to sort of manually move it to make sure it's correct. It's a pain in the butt, I know. So what's this level? It says it is 39.84, and we are at 39.85. 1 penny off. How could you, Brian? All right, 39.84, 39.84. All right, and then once you've got it in place, then hit this lock button. Then that way you don't have to actually, oh, I probably have to update this. Yeah, fudge. Well, we'll take the chance for the purposes of this. But I'll refresh this later and I'll lock it into place later. So don't worry about that one. Okay, so what does this trade setup sort of suggest? Looks to me like the market is actually setting this trade up as we speak. Really, the 25 level now simply means that the market is accepted above these candle body highs. You know, Brian loves candle body highs as trade location. And 39.84 now, you've got, of course, a whole bunch of trap bears in here. So if the market does dip down into those candle body lows, of course, Brian loves candle body lows trade location. But if we dip down into that tail, and this is still a bull, then all those desperate bears are going to cover their short positions in a mad hurry, right? And that's sort of what gives this support. It's still a bit early to quote unquote call the bottom here. When I use the bot, what I like to do, but remember, Brian's a chicken. What I like to do is I like to let the market actually set up one low. So there's the key low that we're going to start off of. Notice how the market's rallied back to the 25 level. And that, in my opinion, for a trade, that's awesome. Then come down and test this low. Like I said, candle body lows work. Awesome. Great. Tail, lots of trap bears desperate to get out. So they buy the market back up. And then, like I said, because Brian's a chicken shit by nature, I like to actually have a third low. And if we can get those three lows, then if I do buy this level, and you can see how the market's setting that level up now, might get a nice W right off of that high. Probably a good idea to write that down, 54.6527. What this really is it's a triangle. And of course, you know, all our level oneers learn this is one natural way the market likes to resolve a range, is these triangles. Oh, look at that. So you can see instantly right off the 25 level, boom, they're already bringing it right down against this candle. Can you guys see how that happened? So, you know, this is, of course, assuming that this low holds. If this low doesn't hold, then we have to move the study down. All right, so here we are. We're coming into this notch. Remember we talked about this notch just a few minutes ago. That's these old levels. Right? If this thing really is a bull, the bulls will, oh, look at what they're doing. Do you guys see this? Isn't this cool? As this is happening right as we speak here, this is so cool. So, you know, this might be our second low. I would prefer this take a little bit more time to develop. But can you guys now see, and, you know, I don't know whether this is going to hold now, but can you now see how these lows are starting to print? So, anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking to myself. Is anybody out there? Am I talking? Are any guys in the lounge? Can you see what I'm talking about here? On the flight. Yes. Oh, there we are. All right, cool. I mean, I have no idea how this is going to play out. It looks to me, because this notch is actually a little bit lower than this low, I think this low is vulnerable, right? I wouldn't be surprised if they actually have to bring it right back down to this original consolidation level. So let's watch this play out. In fact, what I would suggest is we've sort of given you the framework to sort of watch this play out. Like I said, if I was thinking about taking this trade and I did all the bot levels and I was looking for that continuation trade, I personally would like to let this develop quite a bit more before I took the trade. You know, I think we had one site member who took a bot trade off of, I think it was Ripple. And really, I think the trade kind of set up like the dump into sort of 66. Then it rallied up, and then it just sort of went sideways, and then it broke out. So the second and third lows weren't really even a close test to the first low. You don't know how this is going to play out, but what you really want is you just want some sort of structure to help you frame risk. And like I said, if I've got 3 lows, then what that means is I got 3 levels where trap bears, in this case, if I'm thinking long, trap bears can try and, you know, cover their positions and defend this level. All right, wow, that was a lot of fun. I certainly wasn't expecting the conversation to go down that road today, but this is kind of cool. We'll just, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about stock market ease. Scott, what'd Scott say here? Albert, are you taking notes on what these guys' suggestions are? And I'm probably not sorry, I'm probably not like totally breaking the script. Albert, are you here? Is this what I was supposed to do? I don't even know. I'm so bad at this stuff. Oh, no comment. If Albert's quiet, that's not a good sign. Anyway, I guess we will talk about it later, huh? Producer notes. All right, anyway, I don't want to talk too much today, but I thought this was kind of cool. Let's see how this develops through the day. As I said, if I was sort of a betting man, I think that we're probably going to have to come down and fill in this notch. But you just don't know. Look at it. Now they're bringing the damn market back up. Let's see how this develops. I did want to talk to you guys today a little bit of stock market ease. So I apologize for those crypto enthusiasts. Something jumped out at me the other day, and I thought it's probably worth just sort of commenting with the public about how I sort of look at markets. And, you know, unfortunately, you can kind of make the same argument with Bitcoin, and we'll use a stock market proxy for sort of your Bitcoin proxy. But I wanted to talk to you about what I would consider maybe not such a good idea versus maybe what I would consider a good idea. So, you know, we start off, and in actual fact, one of our site veterans now, and a very, very good trader, he co-hosts the Daily Brief with me periodically, Thomas the Bear, actually brought this to our community's attention. This is actually, in my opinion, a pretty dangerous investment. Yes, their products are awesome, right? And from what I understand, people really like them, but I also understand that, you know, maybe management's margins are getting squeezed, and so as a result, they're thinking about changing the quality of the product and the pricing. So, you know, fundamentally, there may be a lot of stuff going on in the back rooms, but, you know, if we just look at this price chart, and this is really where I think everybody should start their sort of, is this an idea that I really want to risk my hard-earned money at? Because remember, this is your hard-earned money. And of course, you can apply the similarities to crypto if you want, right? But what's fascinating is there's so many people who watch this video. There are a lot of people that watch this for stock market commentary too. So, okay, so this is a company called Lululemon. And you know, if somebody came to me and said, well, Brian, if you were thinking about investing in this company, where might you? And, you know, the very first thing I like to do is throw on good old reload zones. So it just gives me an idea. And of course, you've heard Brian talk lengths about how I want to buy against the bottom end of the range and sell against the top end of ranges. So if I just start throwing on some horizontal support and resistance levels, I can start seeing the picture develop here. If I was going to be a buyer, where would I want to buy? So looking at it up here, this is starting to look extremely dangerous. And what I found really interesting about this is if we actually, I like to use a fib level that's sort of going to tell me if the market is indeed ranging within a trending market, if that makes any sense, and we're looking for the trend to continue, versus ranging within a ranging market. And if that range within a ranging market fails, we're probably going to have to head back down to the bottom. Oh boy, that's a mouthful. Sure hope you understood that. But what I think's going on here with this kind of company is, based off of this entire range, I think a natural 38.2 fib retracement has to happen here, which is sort of asking, are we still trending? And this is just going to be nothing more than just a cleanup of an overextended short-term move. Or, like I had on earlier, this is actually the end of the bull run for now. Where the hell is it? Oh, fudge. And we got to come down and do things like reload zone cleanups. And that is that conversation. So also too, if we just put on a fib just off of like this range and do that 38.2, then what we get is we get actually a very interesting level here that I want to keep a close eye on, right in through here. And really, it's a question of this ultimate low. And then also, too, if we do bearish AB equals CDs, if we fail here, can you see how that's going to take us down against that key low and into these 38.2 clusters? So this, in my opinion, looks pretty darn dangerous to be investing in. And unfortunately, because it sort of comes straight line off the top here, it's awfully tough to get in on the short side. We've seen a lot of this in the stock market. Which leads me also to believe that we may actually see a nice serious test of these highs down the road. So I think that for a lot of these high growth names in the stock market, we're going through this very natural, this has been one hell of an insane bull run. And, is the party over with? And if it is, then what it probably means is, we have to come down into here and then see you later. But if the Fed can engineer a soft landing, then we end up doing something like that. And who can tell me what that's going to sort of develop? We just talked about it in Bitcoin. Hopefully everybody can see a bullish bot setup that could potentially form here. But shut up, right there to there. Isn't that interesting? So you can see how that just sort of nestles right in that sort of 38.2 cluster. And then we'll clone that. And if this thing still is a monster trend, right, it's going to do something like that, and then something like that. And oh, cool, didn't do it. All right, so I have no idea how this thing's going to develop. Does it come in? Can you see how I just eyeballed this, but can you sort of see how that 25 level would set up the next wave higher? So let's see how these names develop here over time. I think and I see this a lot in the stock market. We had just one in, and just insane. And you could, what's really cool is you can do this, take your curve, right, and just draw. You can see the parabolic nature of that move, right? I mean, we want parabolic. And then when it breaks, right, okay, so we can put that away now. So we look at another one in the stock market, sort of the same sort of thing. And, the interesting thing is this one has a lot to do with Bitcoin and crypto. So, hopefully everybody that's been working with Brian for a while sees exactly where Brian wants to be interested in these names. And of course, there's the insane end result of this move. And this is what worries me, is that people don't actually look at this chart and go, oh boy, that's got a bit of risk associated with it. I remember back in the summer, I was like, holy geez, this thing, there's got to be a trade somewhere in here. And people were like, no way, Brian. This thing's, it's the shit. Yeah, it's not coming back down. I suppose we could play the same logic argument here. If I wanted to be a buyer of this thing and I'm just doing simple reload zones, you can see, actually, isn't that interesting? There's actually, there's a few in here. But look at this cheeky gap right against this level right in here. That looks like some unfinished business, but I'm sure we're going to find tons of gaps. There's probably another one right there. We need Sen's gap script, but I'd be really interested to keep an eye on that level there. But if this thing really does fall out of bed, where is key support? Really, I suppose you could argue, might even have to go all the way back there, right? So, boy, you can see how risky this is. And here's the problem, right? Now on a name like this, and this is kind of like, I'm going to use the same sort of Bitcoin analogy. Do you really want to be a seller here? I think you kind of missed the selling window. I suppose if we did that 38.2 logic, I think 38.2 is probably in here. So ironically enough, because that's a V top and you can see this cheeky little gap right up here, I think this thing's probably going right back up top at some point. Does that necessarily mean that I have a trade? No. And, a lot of people probably should just make a comment for this in the public. A lot of times I'll sort of like, I'd put like a chart or something out on Twitter and I'll go like, wow, this looks like one hell of a level, like right in here, right? 78.6 gap, right? And then people will say, well, okay, so you're calling for 78.6, and really, no, I mean, I'm just, talking smack. So, but having said, geez, that sure looks like an awesome trade level. I suppose, there is, so if I was drawing levels right now, I think really simply put, this is my buy zone on a name like NVIDIA. And I like to do that as in green. And this would be my sell zone for the time being. Something like that. Interesting. You could probably do a fib off of that level too, because it's it almost looks like it's a really important pivot in the market. It's also a cheeky little sort of breakaway gap there too, which might paint this as a buying zone. For me, way too early for me to think about being a buyer. And hopefully, you just look at this chart and just go, yeah, you know what? I mean, this is the definition of trying to catch a falling knife. I would at the very least give it a little bit of time to create a fractal. And actually a really good example of a stock that's trying to bottom. And if I was like a trader in this particular stock, I even posted on Twitter, I went and looked at the price of the options and they're just way too expensive. I had sort of talked in the public and like I said on Twitter about how, I thought it was way too late to be a seller through here. And if you actually did want to hunt like reasons to be buyers, I think you actually have quite a few reasons, right? I think if we did I don't know whether it's off of this range. No, probably off of that range. Off of this low, of course, that's subjective. Why not use this low, kind of stuff. But you can see how that was a mountain man level. And more importantly, I think for me was there was just this huge hole that needed being filled, that gap. And really, I think you could make the argument old horizontal support and resistance. So, this area sure looked interesting as sort of a buying location. And sure enough, on Friday, in came an inside bar reversal on Apple right off of that trend line. So I'd actually think that we could explore up higher. So if you're interested in NVIDIA, I would really suggest that you wait for some sort of signs of reversal here. This is just the very smatterings, and I don't even know if this has any divergence or anything to work with. Let's see. No divergence, but Willie did go stupid there briefly. So, I think we got good trade location, came right up against this node in the profile. I think, interesting how you can see a tag of this upper end of the profile, total double distribution. And even this node right here, that's like totally standing out on its own, sitting right against that 50% level. I think that's a pretty good shot in there. And had the options been more in my ballpark, they were just too expensive. I think I would have pulled the trigger there, but I didn't. So full disclosure. So a couple of really interesting. Now, a name that I'm chewing on here because Albert's like, Brian, I want you to more trade ideas, right? We want to talk to the public and give them ideas that they can actually consider. I really do like this tourmaline oil. It's a Canadian stock. So if you can't buy Canadian stock, that sort of ends the conversation for you. I'm sorry. I like this is because their primary play is natural gas. And they have a couple properties, one in BC here locally. I'm here in Canada, by the way. And I do really like the idea of taking a look at the July $20 calls. They're about $2.50 right now. And if you actually look on the daily charts, there's a nice cheeky gap right up here at 22.33. So that sort of implies, like I said, we're going to pay like $2.50 for these. So that implies on that gap fill at least a break even. And if we got some time on this thing, I think we can actually work our way up to this gap, right, which is way up here. Keep in mind, this is the high from August, not that long ago. And seasonally, natural gas prices are pretty weak. So into the end of the year. So if anything, seeing the pattern this guy's making here makes complete sense to me. And then, if we do, well, yeah, 50%. Yeah, we're sitting up here again around this 22 area. I think, for now, I don't want to pay the 250 for this. But if I can get this option for like $1.50, somewhere in that area, I'm very interested in this. And you can see a pretty big gap to the downside. So this is an idea that I'm kicking around on the site right now. And if I can get this option for next summer at around $1.50 or so, I'm very interested. I think there's money to be made here. And then, of course, if I can do that and we get any kind of pop here against these trend lines, and I can see a double on my option price, which often happens. We did it on American Barrick there through September, October. Then I get like a free position, a free look, and then, you can see zooming out. If natural gas and these guys actually do get going in earnest, we can actually see higher time frame trade setups starting to come in. So, to know that this is investment grade and it's ready to rock and roll, what we really want to see is a break of this teal trend line. I'd like to see a rally back up into here and fill in that gap I told you. And then, of course, my little options trade gives me my free position. Then it come back down. And then on the next structure signal, if it's like a W like that or something, then we know this thing's off to the races. Ideally, you would like... ideally, I would actually like if we could actually come up here and put in the structure way up here. And actually, what's really cool is go back and look at an Ethereum chart from, I think it was last year, or maybe, no, I guess it was 2 years ago. Did exactly the same thing. Great pattern, and then it just took off like a rocket. So, interesting little options idea I'm kicking around on the site for people. I am, I don't know whether you guys have seen people watching on YouTube. Natural gas prices look to me like they've turned the corner, and somebody was posting in the lounge that they saw that there was, I don't know, maybe it was on Twitter, I can't remember. They saw an article that said that I think it was Zero Hedge or something that said there was a massive short position in natural gas, long position in crude oil trade that was unwound, which caused the big run up. Here's the chart I was looking for. So I'm very interested in natural gas. And what I also like about natural gas too is you'll notice, and it sort of goes contrary to the economic cycle. And if I'm thinking like, a stock market top, and maybe a recession, notice 99, 2000, same sort of perking up here. This is where I think we are here in this particular cycle. Notice how natural gas prices acted through that recession. So if I'm looking for a bull market to participate in through a recessionary environment, because keep in mind, all the growth stocks and all that shit, they're going to be in the shitter. This looks really interesting to me. And so the irony of it all, and not that many people are interested in this, but it makes really good sense to me that, what are the plays off of natural gas, and why would natural gas be bottoming anyway? And I think this is everything to do with politics. I think that 2 years ago, the right-wing, very business-oriented political structure of the United States was put in place, and the coal industry, which supplies something like, does anybody know what the statistics are? How much of our electricity is powered by coal? I mean, it's a huge number, like 60, 70%. And so, in essence, the coal industry breathed a huge sigh of relief. Keep in mind, coal did not do well during the Obama years. The point that I'm trying to make here is I think coal caught, well, not a bid, but at least a huge sigh of relief through that past couple year window. Now that the political structure has shifted, and I think more people are getting a bit more interested in this sort of greenhouse global warming conversation. And, the left-wing government in the United States, the left-wing part of the government in the United States does believe in this global warming thing. I think that alternatives to that coal industry will be considered, and the coal industry is probably on the outs again. Be interesting to look at like an arch coal. I don't know. I think they keep restructuring themselves, but you never know with this crazy thing. Let's see what it looks like right now. If it has a big M here working, it wouldn't surprise me. Well, actually, I talk about trade location though, eh? What do you think, guys? Does it make sense to actually maybe thinking about hunting shorts here? I don't know. Interesting trade location right in there, right? A couple juicy gaps. Where's our reload zone? And keep in mind, the Democrats don't officially take power in the United States government until January, right? So I don't know. I think actually there might be a half decent short trade developing there. So I like the idea of playing the natural gas market and playing the uranium market right now in the stock market. And uranium to a certain degree, I don't know how Fukushima is going in Japan. Actually, it'd be kind of cool to get like sort of a sort of report on how the Japanese are feeling about nuclear and how the developments are going. We did have a really cool presentation by Alex and Bart out of the Netherlands, and I think Rob, to a certain degree, was part of that group. They did a really great report for our community on the uranium sector. And I've been just slowly nibbling away on penny uranium names here over the past few months. Where the hell's that sheet? So, not that one. Bought a little bit of Dennis in late summer. Picked up a little bit of this. They're an aggregate producer for the uranium space. Nice restructuring name. I love this restructuring model I was taught years ago. Also picked up a little exploration name, kind of like a flyer, but nonetheless, also VCIM. our sort of restructuring story in the venture cap space. And I am interested in adding to that uranium portfolio. I think I'd like to buy some more uranium names. And so, ironically enough, in the stock market, what I'm really interested in right now is I'm interested in blockchain and blockchain related names. Problem is, technically, they're having an awfully hard time. There's this DPW. I did take a shot off of this range, but it failed, and I walked away. We established a new lower trading range, and you can see on Friday they finished it right back down at the bottom end of the range. So we'll see how it acts Monday morning. If we can get any kind of inside bar, some sort of fractal or something here, I might take a shot there. My little cannabis slash blockchain stock underwater, and I might even just liquidate that into year end. Picked up a little bit of this iMining recently. This is a guy that I did a deal with. You might want to take a look at this if you're interested in penny stocks. I did a deal with this guy probably about 10, 15 years ago. Starcore Ventures, if any of you old timers remember Starcore. Pretty honorable guy. I remember one of the firms who was running a big block of the stock wanted to, sort of muscle him into diluting it, doing financings and stuff so that they could pump the stock. And he was just like, go away. So yeah, an honorable guy. I definitely say, and this is his company, iMining Blockchain. I would imagine that, and he just went and bought a whole bunch of ant miners and all that kind of stuff. Shane could probably help him out with his electricity and all that. But basically, this is where the insiders are long. Same sort of thing. And hopefully you see the same logic, right? Basically buying against the bottom end of ranges. So this is a cute one. And I do like the structure of this guy. So if you are interested and you're out nibbling in the stock market, I'm not going to, I never recommend stocks because then the regulators shit all over you. I'm just going to simply say, I bought this. If you want to buy it too, you're more than welcome. If you don't, no skin off my back. Okay. Actually, this is a really interesting one. I'm just watching this develop. Another one in the blockchain space, because I know we have a lot of blockchain sort of related people in this space. BITK. They got about 15 million shares out right now. It's trading below book value, and you can see insiders, they got handed a good 10% of the company down here between 25 and 33 cents. So you can see how, this is what we call block trading. You really want to avoid stocks that look like this. They restructured the company, shares for debt, options to directors, yada, yada, yada. Technically, they've cleaned this thing up. I'm just waiting for a first WIC. I'll probably go grab some of this stuff. So that's an interesting name. And I do like, this is the time of year that if you do play the penny stock market, I've given you a couple pretty good names here. If you do play the penny stock market, I know guys that do yourself a favor if you're interested. A guy named Murray Pezim. He's a local legend here in Vancouver. Guys have made ridiculous. In fact, great analogy, any of you Canadians here, do you know who owns the largest, and actually this is probably like 5-10 years ago, I don't know if it's this case now, but the largest registered retirement savings plan in Canada is a guy who runs one of these bucket shops, which is so ironic, right? Because the RRSP, it's for the working man, right? So you can pay for your retirement. And who has the biggest one? It's a guy who runs one of these penny stock places. Anyway, so the point is that these guys make a lot of money off of this, and just find shares, low share count, 15.9 million, trading below book value, even better. And then if you can sneak your way in below where the directors are long, oh, formidable. So there you go. Albert, I actually gave these people 2 ideas to chew on today. Actually, 3. I like that natural gas play. I like Robert Eady's crypto play, the iMining, and I like these blockchain link 2 Corp. There you go. Okay, I've been blabbing for about an hour here. I don't know. I hope you guys got some value out of what I said today. let's go in and we'll just check in on our OKCoin setup. It was like a 5-minute chart, right? So who knows what happened here. And see what's happening. Oh, hello. Isn't that interesting? Can you guys see how this trade setup is developing here? So remember we said Chicken Shit Brian wants to see 3 lows. So now we got 1 low. Remember we left off, they were in the process of testing this 2nd low. And now we're in the process of trying to carve out a 3rd low. They paint an inside bar here and then take it up here. Can you all see the market structure? Isn't that cool? So I have to go off to Liam here shortly. Liam owns my Sunday afternoons. So, I mean, and look at that. Now they're, oh, look at that. So now they're taking out the lows. All right. So the fact that they just took out this low means that the whole thing has to reset. So this level now is off the table. And we have to, we'll unlock that. And now we have to follow wherever this low is. Now, if this low is beyond, and I think we're probably, why don't we use that key low? So you can see they're coming down. They've lost 66 here now. So now I would say, oh, the bot trade setup is off the table. See how that worked? So we've gone beyond 66. We broke this key low. I think actually now the trend continuation trade is off the table. And now you have to ask yourself, all right, we're back in a trading range. And I think now you can approach this with the reload zone levels. And that means that whatever this ultimate low is, reload zone levels, now I think, and keep in mind this is a 5-minute chart, right? So this is going to zip around all over the place. Oops. Come on, you. Oh, look how big that number is. I wonder why it always does that. Let's go 50. All right. And all right. So now I would say that we have a trading range. So clearly we could not accept above these breakout levels. We come back down into a value. We've actually come all the way back down. Can everybody see how we came right down back to the POC here? You see the POC right here? Fascinating how we came right down, tagged the POC, and then bounced off of it. So looks to me like we're back in a trading range. Let's watch how the market acts at the POC and value. If we can W here, then we should look for a test of the top end of the range, like so. So now we're in a trading range. Oops, you go red, and then you go green. All right, now this is what I think the market state is. So let's watch for some sort of signs of bottom here. And if we were going to hunt a setup, keep in mind, 5-minute chart, right? This thing's all over the place. But we were going to hunt a setup up here. My hunch is you're going to be looking for some sort of W down in here. And you're going to be looking for a 50% level tag to take profits. And if that comes in on a nice divergence in momentum, that will be an El Tangonator. That fires right there. You're going to risk here. That's going to be your risk, and your potential reward is going to be there. And ideally, you want that to be 2 to 1. So that's what I would be watching for now. Okay. Hope you guys saw how sort of, and actually, you know, that's sort of a trader's life, right? If you got to be flexible and you got to sort of, you know, determine whether we're trending or whether we're ranging. I thought that was actually, and really, guys, that was a really good lesson for you guys. Why you want to wait for 3 key lows and the 25 level resolving there. because in essence, there was no long setup here, right? And sure enough, the long setup evaporated and we turned back into a range. And the interesting thing is, you know, for those that are more advanced, we could have been drawing AB, CDs, and if the market did break lower, it looks like there to there, where should we be thinking? Looks to me like the market wants to come back down into here. And that kind of makes sense too. Brian was saying candle body lows as trade location, right? And like I said, if we get our nice little W that sits up right off of here, it's going to set up that range trade 50% bounce play. Okay, I hope I haven't confused the hell out of the public. I don't know whether you got any value out of this today or not. I'm having lots of fun on the site. As I had said, I had 3 trades on, 2 got stopped at scratch, and I lost money on one of my longs recently. So I mean, it's a trader's life. That's the way it goes. I did take a shot, and you know, kind of like Bitcoin, higher time frame, I did take a shot off of these lows, and it didn't work. So now we're back into waiting for consolidation. And you know, really, I might argue that it's probably dangerous for us to pick bottoms down in here. I think we're probably going to see an underside test of this level here, but we could very easily see a dump ahead of this event. You just don't know. And off the higher time frames, we've done quite a bit of technical damage here. The only way I would say that we haven't done a bunch of technical damage is if some sort of horrendous rally comes in here and actually turns this candle back into like a hammer, right? A really small body. Or, you know, we can all pray to the Bitcoin gods. This thing turns around and actually prints green. I wouldn't put money on it right now. I think they tried to, and honestly, I think they tried to rally the market here. And somebody said, "Oh no, get your ass back down there." So, and you look at that, you can see it right across the board, eh? So we started off the video going, "All right, rock and roll." And then unfortunately, through the whole video, what we've literally watched is that rally just sort of dissipate. The good part about it, you know, like I said, we've definitely got now a big ass upper end of a trading range here. So, you know, we come back against all these lows, maybe fill in, like you can see Stamp here. I think Stamp's got a cheeky little gap here. Yeah, there we go. So there's a nice level to gun for. Oh, look at the size of this gap. Son of a gun. Right? Look at that. It's huge. So not a big surprise we came back down into that level and that level, right? So you want to take a shot against low end of range, against these W's, right? Looking for a nice rally up into this wick again. Well, I think that's a trade, but it's a range trade, right? Okay, I better shut up. I got to get going here. You guys have yourselves a great day. I hope you got some value out of this. By all means, you know, like Albert asked, if you can, you know, throw out some suggestions for what would be a really cool name for this thing in the comments there on the YouTube video. If you can suggest maybe ways that we can, you know, improve the product a little bit better. A lot of what I do here on the weekends is very ad-libby. So don't beat me up too much. I'm just having fun. All right, guys, why don't we leave it at that? You know, I think you're supposed to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell 3 people on your neighborhood about us, whatever, all that kind of fun stuff. If you enjoyed the offering. All right, guys, have yourselves a great day. Hang in there. Remember what your #1 job to do is as traders. Make sure you can come back and play the game again tomorrow. And bye for now.